right, the legend in the flesh joins us again, my man Jim Lampley. Jim, I thoroughly enjoyed it, from Canelo. Did you enjoy the fight? What did you think of Canelo's performance?
Well, I thought the first 4 or 5 rounds were thrilling because you got the impression in the first 4 or 5 rounds that Jaime Munguia had a game plan. He certainly had the courage. He had the devotion to the task that it might have taken to ultimately have a chance to win the fight. But as the fight went on, it became clear that he didn't really have the pop necessary to dent the greatest chin in the sport, Canelo Alvarez, and he didn't understand the necessary devotion to body punching that might have given him a chance. And he got caught too many times by one of the sport's best counterpunchers. And Canelo's not just a counterpuncher, he's a power counterpuncher. So the excitement of the first few rounds evaporated as we got to the middle of the fight and then went onward, and the crowd ultimately realized that the Canelo Alvarez who survived Gennady Golovkin twice simply has too much wherewithal for young Jaime Munguia to have had a chance.
That leads into my next question. You called his rematch with Golovkin here when he won that great fight. What would you compare him now compared to that moment 5 or 6 years ago? Is he still everything he was that night, or has he lessened a little bit? How do you see him, Jim?
I don't think he's diminished at all. I think he's still Canelo Alvarez. And I think that, we can talk about his counterpunching skill. We can talk about his strength and punching power. But at the end of the day, the real basis of his greatness is his punch resistance. You can't hurt him. You can't knock him down. I called about a dozen years ago the one knockdown in his whole career, and that was a kind of a freaky moment when Jose Cotto caught him and knocked him back into the ropes, and the ropes held him up, and it was ruled a knockdown. He's never been on his back. He's never been on the canvas. And as long as you can't get him off his feet, he's in position to line you up and keep landing those thudding counter shots that ultimately are just too discouraging for people to have a chance. So, who can beat him? It's the obvious question. Can he make the David Benavidez fight? And can he, at his age, take David Benavidez's punch? I think Benavidez, if he gets the fight, will be the largest puncher ever to have been in the ring with him. I think he's a bigger puncher than Golovkin, and that's saying a lot. So I think that at the end of the day, if Canelo wants to put one more meaningful crowning achievement on his career, to put his accomplishments so far up that you certainly have to consider calling him the greatest Mexican fighter ever. And I don't know if there's a national identity anywhere in the sport that's more meaningful than that. Canelo can take on and beat a puncher like Benavidez after everything he's done up to this point. I'm not a scholar of Mexican boxing, but I know a lot. And I would put him ahead of all the great Mexican fighters I call, including Julio Cesar Chavez, including Marco Antonio Barrera, including Eric Morales. There are others that I could put on the list. But, it's an amazing distinction if he gets to the point where we can say unequivocally, yes, he's earned it, and I think he wants that.
What about as of tonight? No Benavidez fight withstanding. Is he greater? I mean, you called these guys at the peak of their powers. Barrera, Morales, Marquez. Is he better than them? Or is he,
He's as exciting as them now. There was a time when I did not think he was as, sort of blood-racingly exciting as some of those guys were. He's as exciting as them now because now you're watching the continuation of a genuinely great career.
Yeah.
I mean, 2 losses. And both of them to not good boxers, great boxers, all right? Floyd Mayweather and Dimitri Bivol. What does that mean? It means no Mexican fighter has beaten him. No Mexican-American fighter has beaten him. That's what matters most to his audience. They can deal with, a great Russian technician beat him. And the ultimate sort of knockout-proof stylist beat him. We get that. They want to see him go in and fight against other guys who are going to come at him the way Munguia came at him tonight and wind up besting them with his chin and his counterpunching capability. This was classic Canelo. Everything that makes him great was visible in the ring tonight. I love Munguia. He gave it everything. I said on ppv.com, Munguia was brave, Munguia was beautiful, the crowd loved him, and he was another Canelo victim.
I'll leave you with this, Jim. You know, Larry, he would say, gun to my head, and then he'd make his pick, right? So in the words of Larry Merchant, gun to your head, Canelo or Benavidez.
Wow. Wow. Let's see the circumstances of how the fight is made,
right,
where it's going to take place, all that kind of stuff. I don't want to make a pick right now. I'm the world's biggest David Benavidez admirer, but I'm also the world's biggest Canelo Alvarez admirer. So let's just say this. They are two tremendously talented fighters. One of them may be reaching his peak right now. The other one is probably a tiny bit beyond his peak, but not far enough beyond his peak that you could honestly say he slipped. He was great tonight. He had to be great tonight to put distance between himself and a hungry, skilled, good young fighter who tried as hard as he could, but he beat him. And he proved once again that in circumstances where people are trying to find a way to pick against him, he wins. And he wins because, again, you can't knock him down. You can't ruffle him. You can't disturb that calm, methodical, go-forward demeanor that he has and that he's always had.
Yeah, his composure was crazy tonight, yeah. But thank you so much, Jim. Thanks for your time. Thank you, Jim.
My privilege.